From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 27th. Hope everybody had a great holiday, and we are now moving into another holiday. We have a little bit of a delay with the long-range release because both holidays occurred on a Friday when we released the public long-range, so that came out yesterday instead. So if you don't see the written long-range outlook, that is there on the Facebook page to take a look at. I'm going to cover that here in the video as well. And we also have that same situation happening next week. We're going to be closed on New Year's Day, so the long-range outlook will be on Saturday morning instead. Now, we have a little bit of, we have some things to talk about here that are from that long range that have given some people a little bit of pause when it came to the month of January. And they saw, I realize that most people don't read the discussions, even though the discussions are there to kind of explain the hows and whys. I'm going to go into that in this video here. This is usually an esoteric topic, which means it's over most people's heads. I'm going to try to dumb it down for you a little bit so you can see it's going to be a very dumbed down version here, at least not trying to offend anybody there, but some of these topics are, of the hows and whys of things that are happening, at least globally, that will get us into the temperature pattern that we're expecting going into January. I'm going to explain the hows and whys of what gets us there and what gets us out of there, okay? The part that everybody saw on the long-range chart yesterday was this slightly above average period, slightly above to above average, and it goes for an extended period all the way through at least the third week of January. So we're not going to have many chances for snow in the month of January until we get to the very end here where we start turning cooler, I think, and there's going to be something that helps it here toward the end of the month. So when we look at the January as a whole and you see slightly above average temperatures, slightly below average snowfall, this is kind of expected because of what's going to happen here. And again, I don't do these outlooks here just to give people false hope or blow smoke up your rear end. I'm not here to do that, okay? It's the same reason we don't do seasonal outlooks. They're pointless, a waste of time. They can be as researched, and hats off to anybody who wants to do the research. They're very well researched outlooks, and they are very convincing. And they convince themselves that this is the way it's going to turn out, and it doesn't always turn out this way. And the reason why is, I'm going to go through some of these reasons in the video, why we're going to turn above average. You can call this the January thaw or whatever you want to call it, but we are going to turn milder for the good part of January until we get to the very end at the least, okay? Then I think we start to see some changes. We did have a very quick start here in the month of December. This is talking about storm signals here. We do have one storm signal listed as the third, fourth, and that was a very low confidence for that to occur. It was an outside chance. I don't think it's happening. Storm signal versus winter storm. It's just a favorable period of storm development, and I'll show you it is there. But it's just not going to produce, it looks like, because any of these storm signals we list are not a guarantee for a direct hit from a storm or winter storm. But we again, we are above average across the entire region. This is what average December snowfall is, and we are well above that in most areas except for far southeast and Atlantic City. You do not have these snowfall numbers here. Actually, you have nothing here. Trace maybe. But the rest of these regions here, you are above, and in some cases, double what normal snowfall is year to date. So by the time we get to that end of third week of January period, because average January snow does go up almost double from what it does in December, and I don't expect much of any snow through the end of the third week. I mean, you could have something perfectly timed. It's going to have to be perfectly timed and tracked in order to do it. It's one of those thread the needle type situations. You can get it, but the odds, probability speaking, are not very good until we get to at least the end of the month. And you can get some snow there, and I'll show you that in a chart here too I have. But this is the larger reason why we are above average right now. It's because of this system that we had here, 16th or thereabout, or in our region anyway. And that gave us some snow, enough snow to get us to above average, and in most cases double what average is considered to be for this time. So this can carry us for a little while. So by the time we get to the end of the third week of January, you might be closer to what near average should be for most locations across our region at that time. okay? And then we can start adding on after that point. Here's the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day system. Now, this is going to come in two phases here. You have a cold front that's going to move through here on New Year's Eve. Just a few showers with that, and it is rain showers. The cold front moves through, and then you have a second wave that's going to cut well west of the region, and it comes in on Friday, New Year's Day. And it could still be some icing to start here very briefly across far northern areas, but this is just showers too. This is not a heavy rain. This is not a repeat of what we had on Christmas Eve with the power outages and extreme rainfall amounts. This is what the European model is projecting right now, and I think this is a 2-day total. I think we can live with this. This is generally 3/4 of an inch to an inch, maybe some higher in the ridges here, but this is not that bad overall, considering it's a 2-day total and it's not a deluge of rain. We also don't have that rapid snowmelt to kind of exacerbate the situation with the rapid snowmelt combining with the heavy rain to give us those flooding concerns that we've had across the region over the past couple of days. Some of those are still in place, by the way, some of those flood warnings for those rivers being at higher levels than normal. So I don't think this is going to be as bad of a situation with should say New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. But this is what the projection is for that right now. So I don't expect this to be an overly big thing. Here's that storm signal we're talking about. It is here, okay, and the upper level low, which is sitting right here, travels kind of like this from Chicago like this and keeps going out like that in that direction. So there's nothing to bring this up and combine it with an offshore low. It's too far removed offshore. The upper level low passes off to our south, and we are dry during this period, it looks like, on the January 3rd and 4th signal. So I'm going to take that off this morning. I don't think that's going to be something that just suddenly comes back and boom, we got a big storm. Earlier in the week, there was some suggestions that it could be. I wasn't really sold on that idea. Put the storm signal in there anyway, just because it's the only storm signal we have for a while. I won't be putting storm signals in there and probably till the end of January. And here's the temperature periods going forward. A lot of up and down stuff here over the next couple of days here. This is, today, and then we got to go like this and go up and down. And here's midweek, we drop down again. And here's the warmth you have ahead of that front coming through on Thursday. And then the temperatures drop here on New Year's Day as that rain ends, and we get back down to near average, and then we just stay above average here in this time frame, and it stays that way for a while. This is through the end of the run, which is the 10th of January. At this point, since I'm using Lehigh Valley International Airport, at this point, you're in this week here, your average high is 36. Okay, so if you're sitting here 44, 45, 46 degrees, that's obviously above average. Okay. And this is going to continue for a little while, I think. And it's going to go through this stops here at the 10th of January because it's a 2-week lead. But this does go further than this. It probably goes to about the 20th, 21st or thereabout. And that's when we think we start to see some colder temperatures starting coming back into the region. The reason for this right here, is a modeled Pacific jet extension. This is the fire hose. This is what is snow lovers dread in the wintertime. So this extends from this. If you look at the far western portion of this image here, that's moving through. It goes all the way through the 10th or 11th of January. It starts here in Asia. Actually, this is Japan right here, and this is Eastern Asia, Eastern Russia, Alaska. Hawaii is down here. Here's the western coast of the United States. There's California. So you can see the jet extension going all the way across the Pacific. This is a fire hose. This is a flood of mild air from the Pacific, and this is not good for snowfall in our region, okay? This usually shows up just about every single year. This is not, we should be used to this by now. This has been the last couple of years in a row we've had this jet extension. Now, first of all, how does it get there? Okay, now this is where I'm going to get into the somewhat esoteric stuff, but I'm going to try to break it down for you so you understand a little bit better. Okay, so to do that, how does it get there? Okay, so right now this is a snapshot of the northern hemisphere. If you're looking down down toward the Earth from over the North Pole, looking straight down. Okay, so the equators are all the way down here, way down there, but the North Pole is sitting right here. Okay, if you look at this area right here, see this warming that's over the Ural Mountains in Russia? This is a catapult here, basically, that's going to affect everything else around the globe. So it starts here. You have this warming over the Urals. This forces very strong high pressure to form over the Eastern Asian region. This is a positive East Asian mountain torque episode. So the high pressure here is very, very strong. These positive East Asian mountain torque episodes in Eastern Asia will promote the extended jet. So you'll have a jet that looks like this because of a positive East Asia mount torque. That is an effect, cause and effect there of what everything else, one thing downstream affecting another. So it goes all around the globe and eventually affects our weather with this jet extension. So this very strong high pressure that's sitting over Eastern Asia, and I can show you that here. Here's that positive East Asia mountain torque, and you got very strong high pressure sitting over southern Russia and Mongolia in this region here, very strong, and actually coming in 2 waves over the next 7 to 10 days. So this is looking out to January 8th. You got another one coming in here. There's one happening right now that has some very, very strong high pressure, some 1,060 millibar high pressure, in fact. So that'll get that jet extension going. Okay, and it's going to maintain because this is out here to January 8th is going to continue for a while. Okay, so when you're looking at that jet extension, you're going, wow, okay, well this is going to be warm for a while, and it will be. So this is going to be something that extends at least until the 3rd week. Now, why do I say the 3rd week? What stops this? How do you stop this jet extension from screaming across the Pacific and get into some amplification again? Well, stratosphere. Okay, so these are the stratospheric heights at the 30 millibar level. I'm going to use the 30 millibar level. It's a little bit further down than 10 millibar, which most people use. But you can see a very strong consolidated polar vortex once again over the polar regions. Now, last week we had a split. Okay, you had one that was sitting over here and one that was sitting over Hudson Bay right here. The primary lobe was actually sitting here. This is the primary right here. Okay, that's what it was last week. It has since, as of this morning, consolidated over the polar regions. You see this warming though right here. This is a very interesting player, and this is what will eventually disrupt the polar vortex and maybe even split it. At the very least, elongate it. Okay. And as I put this into motion here, and we go forward here, I'm going to show you what this does. See what it does here when you get out here to the beginning of January. This warming continues to creep toward the polar regions, and what this does is actually displaces the cold air that's bottled up in the polar regions away from the poles to the mid-latitudes. Okay, so as this warming continues, you can see the polar vortex is getting elongated here, may even split, and the new GFS forecast this morning is actually showing a split in 2 different lobes like this. And until this warming peaks, you won't see any sensible weather change to our weather here locally down here on the ground. Okay, so this is up at the 30 millibar level. This is way up in the stratosphere. Okay, for this to downwell and propagate downward to the troposphere where weather occurs is going to take 10 to 14 days. So this goes out to January 11th, January 12th here. So the effects of this are not going to be felt until we get to the end of the month, last 7 to 10 days or so. Okay, and as a byproduct of that, with a poleward heat flux, which is exactly what that is, that sudden stratospheric warming event is a poleward heat flux. Once that occurs, this convection right here, this is the Manajoyan Oscillation. This is where the measure where the best convection is across in the equatorial Pacific all the way into the Indian Ocean. You see the best convection is out here in the Indian Ocean and maritime continent. So this is kind of like phase 2, 3, 4. Okay, you want it to be over here in order to get that amplification going. And I think with time, I went ahead too far, I'll get to that in a second. With time, as that sudden stratospheric warming occurs, you're going to have an increased amount of convection here along the equatorial Pacific regions, and it's going to be a little bit further east. It's going to allow this to spread eastward instead of being up in these areas here, which are more La Nina phases. So we are going to have it move eastward a little bit, which can get some of that poleward heat flux going, and you get the amplification of the jet instead of having that fire hose effect like we have right now, which is just screaming warm air, flooding warm air from the Pacific. Okay, the GFS this morning does in fact have a split here at 10 millibar, at the 10 millibar level, with one over Europe here, another one over over Canada, and well, basically Canada here. Okay, so that warming will have an effect. It's just a matter of where these lobes set up, which one becomes the primary. Right now, I think the primary is going to be this one. We'll see. It's a lot of speculation with that, but this can obviously change as far as where the placement of these lobes are. But this warming over the poles allows that cold air to be dispersed to the mid latitudes and can affect our sensible weather. And it can shut off that extended Pacific jet that and those positive East Asian mountain torque episodes that we've been seeing. We're seeing now, and we're going to see again in the first week of January. So because of that, the polar vortex forecasts are going to lead, because of it, again, this is mislabeled. This is the total snowfall between now and the end of January on the GFS extended, okay? And this is believable, but this is just going to be, if you look at the breakdown at 7-day periods, it's primarily the end of the month you see this. This would still be slightly below average snowfall across our region, even if you did get something to save the day here at the end of January, which I think you might. But this is going to be toward the end as this occurs, because there's really not too many opportunities prior to that, prior to the 21st. There's really not too many opportunities. You could have something thread the needle in there. It is possible, but the chances are better once you have that sudden stratospheric warming take place, and then you have the possible split vortex and some cold air that's able to bleed back into the eastern United States. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But the stratospheric warming episode is going to be top topic over the next couple of weeks here to see when this is going to affect our sensible weather. Models don't really go that far. They do on the Euro Weeklies, CFS V2, things like that, but those are less reliable the further out time you go. So the exact timing of when this affects our region is going to be up for debate, and it's also going to be shifting around a little bit. So right now we're targeting the last part of January heading into February to have some sensible weather changes where you can get back into a snowier winter pattern, but it's going to take some time. You're going to have some patience in the meantime. It's going to be milder than average, and because of that, we have that milder than average projection for the month of January, slightly so, and then we have snowfall slightly below average as a result. Even if this does save the day, this is still slightly below average numbers for the month of January, but you can make up for that late January into February going forward. So to summarize, we're likely heading into a warmer period for at least the first 3 weeks of January, and snow chances will have to have perfect timing and track in order to produce. Not impossible, not as likely though. Monitoring the stratosphere for sudden stratospheric warming effects and how it changes our sensible weather and when. The and when part is still up for debate. I'm targeting right now the last 7 to 10 days of the month of January for this change to our sensible weather. We get rid of that milder pattern and start transitioning to at least average or colder than average and some snow chances here. But that could be pushed around a little bit. Hopefully it's not, but there's really no way at this point on the 27th of December for me to say, okay, exactly on January 20th, this is what's going to happen. It just can't be done. This is going to shift around a little bit, and a lot of that is predicated on how the stratosphere behaves. Modeled stratospheric changes and actual stratospheric changes are two completely different things. Okay, so we'll just monitor that and update as needed. Snow chances in January have the highest chance of probability toward the end of the month because of this sudden stratospheric warming. So the last 10 days we are more likely to see that snow. So don't be discouraged. I know a lot of people are discouraged here. We got off to a great start. Again, a lot of places are at, close to double, if not more, what you should be for this time of year to this date. Now, it's going to average out a little bit over the next 3 weeks or so, since we're expecting the warmer temperatures to come in. But at the same time, you have other opportunities coming here toward the end of winter. Again, I don't do long-range forecasting beyond 5 to 6 weeks. I just call it like I see it. So don't shoot the messenger. I wasn't one of those guys that's saying, oh, we're going to have X amount of snow on this, that. No. There were storm signals there that could have worked out in the beginning of January. They didn't work out. So now we're going to head in this mild period, and we'll take our chances here for late January and the month of February, and possibly even March going forward. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchis. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 27th. Join us again next week in the new year. Again, it's going to be on regular scheduled date, so we're expecting to do this next Sunday on time. The long range, however, will be done a day late on Saturday morning like it was this week because of the holiday. Have a great New Year's, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.